There was one other song that I found quite interesting, which is "You Should Call Home."
Oh yeah.
Do you remember the mindset you were in when you wrote that
Oh,
song?
absolutely. I remember 100% how we wrote this song. It was a very organic feeling when we wrote this song. I wrote it with a dude named Josh Bruce Williams in Nashville. It was a Saturday, and that's why the songwriting office was empty. And so we could use the main piano that's in the main room where we could be loud. We got there in the morning, and he showed up late, but he was like, dude, I'm so sorry I had to call my dad. I promised I was going to call him for like days. And I'm like, yeah, I probably should call too. I never call home anyway. Because I don't. You know, when I was 14, I left for the World Championship, Junior World Championship for hockey in Canada. It was my first international travel by myself. So my parents bought me my first cell phone. They're like, call us. And in 2 weeks, I didn't call them a single time. So when I got back home, they took the phone away from me. But anyway, what I'll say is it's not in my character to do that. I love face-to-face. I love one-on-ones. Sure. I love dinners where I share stories more than phone calls. But it was a thing where, like, you start thinking about why you don't call home. And in my case, it was always because, you know, you intend to do so, you want to do so, but then life gets you. You know, you start the day being too late. You know, it's like you never really have a chance to do so. And so that's why we started writing a song, which was basically, which basically has the effect for me of shooting myself a bullet in the foot, because now my mom goes like, dude, you even wrote a song about the fact that you should go home, and I still don't. So, but You Should Go Home, definitely one of the most poignant, emotional songs I ever wrote. My youngest sister, when I played the song at first, I saw she was very moved, and then she asked me to play it again, and first verse in, she was crying like crazy. She said it was the most beautiful song I ever written. So I think it's also one of those songs that everybody can relate to, right. You know. We'll see when it drops.
Because one thing I thought about that song in particular was, as a musician, and like say you traveled since you were 14,
yeah.
and I've talked with other musicians about this. Is it difficult to call a certain place home for you?
Well, I know my home, not necessarily as a place, but maybe a region or a country. It's Switzerland. The more I grow, the more I love Switzerland. You know, every time I come back, I'm amazed by the beauty of it, by the quality of it, by, you know, yeah, my life there is amazing. And so I call Switzerland home. There's been a lot of talking about me moving to Nashville, moving to the U.S. and stuff. People are asking me if I think I'm going to spend the rest of my life there and stuff like that. But no chance. I'm very attached to Switzerland, very proud Swiss, and talk to everyone about Switzerland all the time, how great it is. I feel like I was born in one of the most beautiful regions in the world, if not the most beautiful. And so every time I have a couple days off, that's where I go back. For now, I don't have a place yet, but I wouldn't want to have a place right now because I don't spend enough time there anyway. And when you go back home, who do you want to see? Right. Not your empty apartment. You know, you want to see your parents, you want to see your family, your friends. So that's why I just, you know, I'd rather stay on a friend's couch for a couple of days and be like in the vibe rather than have my own place.
The final song on the album I want to kind of delve into a little bit is I think it's the new single 6, right? Is that the new
Six
one?
is the newest song we released. Yeah.
Because it's kind of this tale of kind of the timeline of a relationship almost.
That's exactly what it is.
And one thing, and maybe I'm completely wrong in this, but yes, it's different. Are you looking for a certain kind of love? It's
No.
difficult to. I can't really.
No, I get your question. No, for me, I think it's the biggest mistake you can make. To look for a certain kind of love is a big mistake. I've had many examples of people close to me who had an ideal love, an ideal relationship, and they wanted to find a girl at age 30, get married at 32, have a kids at 33, a house at 35, and I always told them you're going to get divorced at 39. Happened for a few of them. No, I don't look for love. I don't look for a relationship. I'm very open-minded. I love exploring, enjoying, and 6 is the most singer-songwriter song of the record. It's also one of the 2 songs I've written by myself on the record. The other one being Love on Fire. And 6 is just, it's 6 is one of the songs I wrote in the style I used to write in. You know, it's like, basically the story is I spent 7 days total with this girl in LA. We were on and off, whatever, seeing each other whenever I was in LA for a couple of years. And so I stayed at her place for a week. And 2 first days were amazing. 3rd and 4th, she was a little nostalgic from her home country, no big deal. And 5th and 6th, she was already anticipating the fact that I was leaving and that we were not going to see each other for who knows how much time. And so she was really depressed about it. Because obviously we're having a good time.
Sure.
and I was at the airport in Miami, and our plane got delayed half an hour because of a flat tire. And in this half hour, I wrote the text, and it was a rush. I was like, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, and I think total I wrote 12 or 13 verses for that song. I was really inspired. I wrote, and then yeah, I was just thinking, you know how they say that if you make it past the 7th year of a relationship, you're usually like, it's good.
Right.
Well, I was like, maybe I've just experienced that, but in 7 days.
Like a very fast version, yeah.
Like a very compressed version of
Right.
what other people do, maybe. Yeah, it's one of my favorite songs. The recording was also really interesting. It was in Montreal, and I wanted to work on a demo, so we went to the studio, and I started on acoustic guitar, and I was like, again, we're going to talk about James Bay, but it was right when James Bay was breaking through. And I was with the acoustic guitar, and I was like, man, I'm tired of this sound. I need something more warm that fills the place. And I was like, hey, you know, James Bay does those amazing electric guitar songs. Let's try an electric guitar. So I tried it. We kind of worked on the structure, and then they were like, all right, just before we go for lunch, try a couple takes. We'll see what it sounds like. I was like, all right, sounds good. So no click, nothing. I started playing, and I really fell into the song. You know, I felt every single lyric I was saying. It felt really good. And after the 3rd take, I opened my eyes because I had eyes closed during the whole performance, and I just saw the producers on the other side of the glass in the recording room, and they were just staring at me, and they were like clapping, and I was like, what are we doing from here? And they're like, dude, don't even bother, we have it. And so we kept that as a 1 take, and the next day just added some strings, harmonies, and a little bass, contrabass, and that's the song. So that was probably the fastest song I've ever recorded, and you can feel that also in a music video, I think. So yeah, 6 definitely one of my favorite songs. Yeah.
Okay. Finally, then, you mentioned it already, but you're playing Ziggo tonight with Shania Twain.
Yeah.
Who I believe you've already known since you were 18.
Yeah, I've known her, well, I was a little older. I was maybe 20, because I met her at Montreux Jazz Festival in 2012. She saw me performing at a little event, not even at the festival, but in the area. And it's just one of those things that happen. And, you know, for me, it's funny because even this memory is a little blurred. You know, I don't really necessarily remember how but we just ended up having lunch together. Her and her husband, me and my family, and we just clicked. And then it's just one of those things where the more I would see them, the more I appreciated them, and the more I realized they were amazing people. And then we started talking about music more and more. I've been involved in her whole new record, not as a producer or anything, but just listening and giving feedback whenever I could. And she does exactly the same for me. She listens to my songs. She goes like, dude, maybe you could change this, and that. She's also helped me a lot in the U.S. She put me in touch with Jakir King, who's the producer that produced Kingsley and James Bay of Monsters and Men, Niall Horan, Shania Twain, of course, and whom I produced three tracks with. And yeah, it's just one of those. No, it's not just one of those. It is a very unique story in the music industry, because nowadays, where business is regulating the whole thing, to have an icon like Shania Twain who decides that me, who's like, you know, had a decent career in some parts of the world, but I'm not, you know, decides that it's going to be me opening for her whole world tour. This is really special, you know, and it's yeah, it's a very special feeling, and so far we're all really happy. It all works perfectly. I go up on stage every night, play half an hour, just me, guitar and vocals, warm the crowd up, because that's what you want to do as an opening band. Then join her on stage for two songs, and then we wrap it and move it to the next city. And I think tonight's going to be our 60-second show.
Okay.
So we've been doing that for a while. It's going fast, and it's a blast. I mean, this is experimenting touring at its highest level.
Well, that will be my final question then, because like you say, she's somebody who's been in this business for such a long time,
Yeah.
and she knows so much.
Yeah.
And then you say you're 62 shows in now.
Yeah.
So can you share one thing that you kind of learned from her by either watching her or talking to her about this industry, about being a musician, about being a songwriter?
I think the one thing about her I really like is she's never been into following trends. She's just always set up her own thing. You know, she's telling me how she's never been to one of those events you have to be there. She's never, you know, she's never socialized that much with a lot of people, because nowadays, you know, how we all say it's all connections, it's all blah blah blah, and I might be an example that this is the truth. But in her case, she's always just done her thing, and she's extremely pro. She'll notice anything that doesn't work like it should on the show. And I think maybe the most important thing is she is so respectful with her fans. You know, she brings fans on stage every night. She talks with them. And you can really see she's moved. She's just a very honest, down-to-earth person who's worked a lot and who's nowadays happy that, you know, this is her life. That's what I feel living a day-to-day life around her. Yeah.
All right, Bastian, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure.